All right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. And right here, we're live on YouTube and, of course, the FM dial here in Prescott, Ontario. But we're joined by this is a worldwide broadcast. We actually have KTO, Kathleen Turner, Overdrive, and they are chiming in all the way from Australia. It is actually January 14th for them. Well, it's still the 13th here in Canada. How are you individuals actually doing this evening, or should I say this afternoon for you guys?
Well, we're doing really well. We're really happy to be talking to you. It's a bit of a bleary old day here today, though. It's not sunny. It's summer here, but yeah, not a happy summer day.
I gotta say, it's definitely not a happy winter evening here either. We just got bombarded by a huge snowstorm, so I'd much rather take the clouds over the snow any day.
Yeah.
But I know you individuals are super busy. You guys are gearing up to get ready to go on tour this coming Canadian summer. And we're gonna get into that during the interview. But for the listeners that actually aren't quite familiar with KTO, I was wondering if you can actually introduce yourselves individually, and of course, tell us a bit more about yourselves as individual members of Kathleen Turner Overdrive.
Right.
Start with you, Mark.
Okay. My name's Mark, and I play a very minor role in the songwriting team at KTO, but I also play guitar and sing backing vocals.
And I'm Ads. I play the bass for KTO. I am also somewhat minimal in songwriting. And yeah.
And I'm Lizard. I'm maximal in songwriting. And I don't play any of the instruments, but I do come up with the melodies.
Which is important.
That's important.
I'm Danny Sharks, and I play drums for KTO, so love it.
And I got to say, a damn good drummer at that. So I got to definitely got to say that, because we already, as you guys already know, we got a lot of the songs actually currently playing in the station. I got to say, I love every aspect of what you guys actually have. Such a very unique, one of a kind punk rock sound. But I got to say, I love the sound of drums, and I got to say, you definitely have one phenomenal talent on that drum kit.
Thank you, man. That's really appreciative, eh? Yeah, I spend a lot of work and practice trying to, make my parts feel exactly how I want them to sound and come across. So to hear that is an absolute, it's a pleasure, man.
Yeah. And I'm really chuffed that you mentioned that we've got a bit of a unique sound, because that's what we're really trying for. We are at our core a punk band, but we also want to explore light and shade. So we don't want to be in the face completely. We got a message that we want to get across, and it's not necessarily the way that it's traditionally been done. But thank you.
And I got to say as well, sometimes it's better to actually kind of do things your guys' way, the way you guys actually feel it should be done, because like you said, you're not doing it the traditionally way, but that's sometimes the best way to do it. The saying I always go by is, you can run with the pack of wolves, but then you won't get noticed. The pack of wolves will get noticed, but the lone wolf is always the individual that gets noticed because no one else is around them doing the same thing.
True.
Very cool.
But also, I got to ask, what is the origin story behind KTO? Like, how did you four individuals come together as one and form such a phenomenal band?
I can talk to that if you like, boys.
Yeah.
So Mark and I went to university together back in the olden days. And after we'd left university, we started a band that we called Kathleen Turner Overdrive. And we did that in 1992. And that band was an indie covers band. We were just sort of punking up songs that we liked. And then after a few years, that dwindled. But then back in 2015, when things had settled down with raising families and careers and so on, I felt that I was ready to get back into the scene. And so Mark, who was actually my husband, was on board with that. That's that one. And then we got in contact with Aidan, and we were mucking around. And then about 3 years ago, we asked Dan if he'd join us on drums. So it's been solid for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And fun as.
And I have to ask, because obviously when you guys actually restarted back up, I don't know how the situation was out there in Australia, but down here around 2020, it was definitely a very, very difficult year for every single Canadian with the whole COVID-19 pandemic. Like you guys, by the sounds of it, you guys actually reformed and got together either right before the pandemic or right at the beginning. How hard was that to really actually do band practice and get together as a band during these horrific events that humanity had to endure?
I suppose if we didn't have any symptoms and we weren't sick, we got together and practiced. I mean, individually and out in the community, I think we're all practicing, good hygiene and wearing masks and, distancing and so forth. And of course, if any of us were symptomatic, we wouldn't practice. But I think we just were determined to not let anything really slow us down. I mean, the big thing is, when the pandemic was at its height and the social restrictions were at their height, venues weren't putting on bands and doing live music. So you just had to console yourself with being in the studio or the rehearsal room and practicing and writing new stuff. And I think that's given us an opportunity to produce some material that we're really proud of and that we really love playing. And then, of course, as we've come out of COVID, the music scene, certainly in Australia, the underground and punk rock music scene has just flourished. And so we're really proud. Our town hasn't flourished. There has been thriving independent or original music scenes here before, but at the moment it seems to be pretty much dominated by covers bands. So we get the odd gig here in Toowoomba where we can, but we don't play anywhere else around the state that we can get a gig.
Most of our gigs are in Brisbane,
the
capital of our state. We live in a regional city of about 180,000 people, so we travel to Brisbane.
I gotta say, sometimes the bigger cities have more opportunities than your own hometown.
Most definitely, and that's where we've developed a really broad group of friends within the industry. So it's almost like every time we play a gig, we meet a new band that we really like, and we form a strong relationship with them. To the point where if you need to call on a band quickly to fill a vacancy because a band is pulled out, it's pretty easy. So it's very reliable, supportive.
And I know this is probably a cliche kind of question, but obviously down here in Canada, we have a punk scene in more of the Toronto area, Ajax area, but not really around my neck of the woods. But the one thing I have to ask is, how is the punk rock scene actually out there in Australia, in your guys' area? Like, is it a very vibrant scene, or is there only a few bands that currently doing their thing?
Well, we've actually been hooked up with a good few sort of punk bands, like as Mark and Liz said, not so much in our local space, but in Brisbane, we've played alongside great bands like Crave and Violet and Gutterfire. Well, Gutterfire actually came to us, so that was one of the last before the pandemic or after it came back.
It was just before it, because that's when Bar Wonder closed.
Yeah. And we've just met a lot of great bands doing all that sort of stuff. So I guess you would say, well, what did I have? I had 3 or 4 notepad pages full of the bands that we've played with, and that most of them have a couple tunes on Spotify and whatnot. So
Irontown though, there's not a whole lot happening in the punk scene.
No.
There's one band that I know of that's local, who's a punk band, and who just keep on keeping on. They've been together for years. And every now and then they'll pull themselves out and they'll do a gig, and a lot of people will come to celebrate because they're really great performers. But apart from that, our town itself is really a covers town. They love their covers bands, and they're not interested in much else.
But across, when we look at along
I agree with you.
Coast, on the East Coast, we've got a really thriving punk scene, and it's a good mix too. It's a good mix of age. So from young, newly forming punk bands to diehards, our age and older. We've got a great range of styles. So you've got that really old oi
Fast.
In your face.
early 80s English style of punk.
Yeah.
You've got more art rocky sort of stuff. There's this whole thing too. I don't know if you've heard of Amel and the Sniffers or the Chats. So they're Australian bands that really have a real punk ethos, but they just have such a different look too. Like I don't know, in Australia there's this, we call them bogans, and like so anyone with a mullet and flunny and
ape drapes.
Yeah,
I think they call them elsewhere.
Yeah, so I don't know what a bogan is in your community, but these bands they have this look, but then they play this music, which is really music. So it's a really diverse scene, and just tons of bands, and it's really thriving at the moment.
Yeah, and it's great to be part of it. Oh, mind blowing! It's so it really lifts your spirits at the moment, particularly on the east coast of Australia, to be part of the punk scene, because there's stuff happening all the time, and nobody's ageist or sexist. It's just a really open environment. Everyone's welcome. Yeah.
And also, I actually read via your website that KTO is actually currently working with international producer Steve James to actually bring just a fresh sound to punk rock. I was wondering, can you tell our viewers the story behind that? And of course, how did you guys actually link up with Steve James originally?
Okay, I want me to talk about that?
Yeah, you did most of that, so yeah, that's your story.
Okay, so like I was saying about people looking after each other in the band scene here, there is a band here called Suburbia, and we know one of the guys in that band, and he listened to our last EP and really loved it. They happened to get their gear, their EPs and albums recorded with Steve James. So he took our EP to Steve James and said, listen to this is really good. And Steve listened to it and went, that's really good. I'd like to work with them, get them to contact me. So we did. And then after we did contact him, well, during the process of contacting him, we learned about his background and that he'd worked with the Sex Pistols, he'd worked with the Jam, he'd worked with Shirley Bassey, he had done the soundtracks for all the Monty Python movies, that he'd written the song Always Look on the Bright Side of Life from The Life of Brian, that he's got this huge repertoire of achievements. He's been nominated for a Golden Globe. He's won
several arias.
Yeah, at least one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done all of the work with one of our biggest local rock bands, Screaming Jets. So from the moment he met them, he kind of fell in love with their sound and has produced everything that they've done now over the last 25 years. Yeah. And he's a great guy, great raconteur. You know.
So his dad, this is a little interesting tidbit on the side. His dad was a comedian from the 40s, 50s, 60s called Sid James, which was he was on the buses and Carry On movies and so on. So they're the sort of hilarious shows that our parents used to make us watch when we were kids. So there was this lovely link when we realized that his dad was this funny guy from these shows that we used to watch as a kid. But yeah, Steve has been great. He brought a whole lot of ideas to what we are doing, and gave us, I think he's given us a little bit of a different sound this time around. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's the story of Steve.
And I gotta say, it just shows that you individuals are doing something absolutely correct within punk rock. When someone like Steve comes along and actually wants to work with you guys, it just shows that you guys are definitely going down the correct path within the music industry, because that's an extraordinary opportunity.
We're very grateful for it. It was very fortuitous.
It was almost surreal until we actually got to the studio and started working with him and writing these songs and obviously recording them. It was a surreal feeling to know that it was actually happening.
Yeah.
I think the feeling is definitely for any situation like that. At first, you don't really believe it until you're there, and you're just like, okay, this is really happening.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, because obviously, you must have saw all his plaques all in his studio, correct? Because I got to say, if you guys keep going the way you guys are going, your plaque is going to be up in his studio next. I can definitely see that have such a phenomenal catalog just this far.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he had any discs on. He's got a rental studio, but in this town that he lives in, which is lovely. So we didn't see any, we didn't see any plaques or discs or gold discs or whatever. But I guess for us, just being able to have on the liner notes, produced by Steve James, is an accolade in itself.
Yeah.
And also on May 13th of 2020, you actually released the amazing 6-track EP titled Astronomical. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about this particular record, and of course, where can we actually buy or stream ourselves a copy of it today?
I can do it.
You go for it.
Yeah. So it's autosomal. We released it. Was it May or April?
It was the 2nd of March.
2nd of March. There you go. And it was a combination of a lot of the songs that Mark and Liz already had as, working together from either, from 92 onwards, etc., with a few others that we just flared together as we're working as a band throughout COVID. And it was recorded and produced by a guy named Adam Merker that runs out of Brisbane. And he did an absolute great job of finding the sound we wanted and working with us, kind of pushed us all as musicians to try and get that little bit more out of us every time we did the session. And it's been well feedbacked every time that, people have listened to it. People have obviously streamed it. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube Music. There's obviously a video for Unseen on YouTube. And anything that has come from that has always just been a great experience. And we're obviously really stoked about that EP. So,
and I got to say, the EP is definitely phenomenal. And the one thing I always get asked, and I find if I don't ask this question, a lot of individuals get upset that they don't have the opportunity to know this. Do you guys currently have hard copies available of this EP? That way, individuals can actually purchase and have, and it hurts me to say this, a collector's item, because the way CDs are kind of collector's items now. Makes me feel old.
Yeah. Well, we did a little demo CD a couple of years earlier than we did Autosomal, and we still have a whole bunch of those. So we decided that we weren't going to do any hard copies for Autosomal. It was just going to be
a digital release.
Yeah.
But in saying that, we might look at that avenue when it comes to the new CD coming, because it's funny that it's a 50-50 sometimes. You realise that a lot of people love just the digital downloads or, buy it on iTunes or something like that. But then you get people going, well, where's the CD? But CDs, have been in and out for the last, decade, if not more. So it's a really hard one to roll the dice on.
It is.
But speaking of the original EP, this is our first EP called 27, and that was recorded locally. And it's still a great little disc full of some pretty cool songs. So you can jump online onto our Bandcamp account and or page and all of that, or just even have a listen, but it's up there as well. So it's called 27, and it's by Kathleen Turner Overdrive.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I saw when he first pulled it out, when he actually held it up, and he was just like that. I was like, that's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you got to sell yourself, mate.
I gotta say, and that's the best way to do it. And we're going back to what you said, how like CDs have been in and out for so long. I heard a lot of bands so far, a lot of their fans say, hey, we want CDs, we want CDs. And once you order a box of CDs, nobody wants them. It's like
CDs left for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It's weird. With me, I actually have about close to like 700, 800 CDs. And like, I have absolutely no place to put them. They're like kind of scattered all over my house. And I still go buy more. I don't understand why. I just keep doing it.
Your wife must be happy with you.
She hasn't told me to stop yet, so that's good. But there is going to be a time where she's like, get it out.
What?
Yeah.
There's this thing called the internet.
But we have been focusing a lot on shirts and stickers and other type of good merch that people can buy. So we've got all that as well.
And also, one of your guys' very first shows that you guys actually did together was so it was a guitar and dinner show and dance on January 30th of 2021 on Little Russell Street out there in Australia. I was wondering if you can actually tell our viewers a bit more about this particular show, and of course, what was it like just coming together for one of your guys' very first shows and just performing at that particular venue?
So back at the when was that again? It was
January
2020. Yeah. So that one was one of the local band instrument shops in town actually opened a cafe right next door to themselves. And so they were just a nice little alternative venue. as opposed to just playing a pub on a weekend sort of thing. And they were happy to put us on of an afternoon.
It was a
at that
nighttime
stage.
show.
That was a
Yeah.
nighttime show.
Yep. And
Yeah.
McDermott and North played with us.
That's right. And they were the guys with the really good, almost Beatles harmonies.
Yeah, they moved to
Yeah.
Melbourne to make it big.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice.
And Maddie and Cece did
Yep.
the set.
Yeah, they did their little,
Cece's now in the Vampire Diaries.
as in the show.
Yeah.
Oh,
There you
right.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. And yeah, that was one of our first gigs that I remember us having the current lineup. So yeah,
So it was a nice night. And
it's
a
a
lot
good
of
show.
actually, there's a pub down the road from there, a real bogan pub. And folks who were going to the pub were hearing our music and were like veering off from the bogan pub and coming in.
Yeah,
The place was packed. It was great.
And it's the same night I got my jaw broken.
Oh, right.
Just to
Not there.
lay it all
And
out.
another pub up the
Not
road.
at the venues.
No, that was my after party.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I gotta
great.
say, it definitely sounds like like obviously not phenomenal that you broke your job, but definitely sounds like a phenomenal party that unfortunately led up to those events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't break my own jaw. Someone did for me.
We're kind like that in Australia.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, beer and whiskey and booze definitely causes things like that. But hey, jaws can heal. At least he had fun.
Yeah,
That's right.
But you can hear him. He's fixed. He's
yeah,
fine.
I'm
Yeah.
fixed. I'm not in soup anymore, so.
But also as well, on January 20th of actually 2023, since we're actually on the topic of shows, I actually read on your guys' Facebook page that you'll be taking the stage at the King Lear's throne. I was wondering if you can actually tell our viewers what can we actually expect from this KTO performance, and of course, how can the viewers, if they are in the Australian area, snag some last-minute tickets to come out and see all four of you guys live in full effect?
Yeah. Well, so King Lear's is a little dive bar in Fortitude Valley in Brisbane, which has got lots of great venues, small and large. And it's a venue we've played at a few times now. So we're one of four bands on the lineup that night, all of our own interpretations of punk rock, and we just put on a hard, fast performance. We usually play pretty hard and pretty fast. Lizzie's a great dancer, so she's sort of mixing it up on stage with her dance moves. And Ads is he as well. I'm more like a statue. So I just stand there and play.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, so we're
It's gonna
30-minute sets. We're just going to get in there. We're going to go hard and
Yeah.
fast. We've got three other bands on the bill. We've got Violet, who are our good mates. They're a Riot Girl kind of band. Great vocals there. Another band that I really love called Far China. Again, power pop punk, just fancy songs, funny songs, but really make you want to dance. And a bunch of boys that we've discovered from Ipswich called Pitch Kruger and the Slippery Eels. They're a three-piece, but we have bass and drums as the music.
It's got
And
some full sound.
yeah,
Oh,
they're
it's
really
great,
full
yeah.
sound and they're lovely boys. So yeah, it's going to be a great night.
I gotta say, it definitely sounds like a great night. I'm gonna say I'm borderline jealous that I'm actually on the other end of the world, because I gotta say you guys really sold that show, and I definitely wish I could be there. But yeah,
Well, you can come to our show in Kingston.
I actually was just about to bring that up. I will definitely be there. I gotta
Not just
say,
that, we might even live stream a bit of the performance. So if you jump in our KTO, you'll be able to see it live
Oh, yeah.
for yourself.
Yeah.
and also while we're actually on the topic of that, you guys are actually going to be going on tour. I have in Puerto Rico, Australia, of course, and of course right down here in the Great White North of Canada, coming up this summer of 2023. I was wondering if you can actually just tell our listeners a bit more about that tour, and of course, how did this opportunity actually arrive for you guys? Because this is a major opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that beautiful community that's out there thanks to Facebook. So we did an interview a couple of years ago, I think now, or was it last year, with a YouTube channel called Sharing a Drink with Matt. And through there, we became aware of other different bands. You reach out, you like each other's stuff, you develop a mutual admiration. And one of those bands was Master Nate and the Reprobates, your very own Canadian punk band. So from there, we've had dialogue and lots of sharing of ideas. And they invited us on to the Pirates and Punks Festival for 2023, which is Canada, Costa Rica, and then back over to Australia up the East Coast. That's how that happened. through the magic of Facebook and the connections that you make. Yeah.
And I have to say, when you guys get down here to Canada, you are definitely, if you haven't been already, you guys are definitely going to enjoy it. We definitely are going to welcome all four of you with warm welcome arms.
Yeah,
We can't wait. We can't wait.
Because I got to say, when we actually get international music down here, we cherish it. Because unfortunately, we don't get a lot of great shows like this actually down our way. So I can tell you, Kingston, you guys are going to love that little beautiful town.
Yay. Yeah.
No, we're looking forward to it. We're playing on I'm not sure what the event is, but at a First Nations festival. And
Is that the Tiendinaga?
yeah, and we've got shows at a bunch of venues in that sort of Kingston, Toronto area, and then down to Costa Rica, and there's just like this banging punk scene down in Costa Rica too. So it's really exciting to be part of other people's scenes, and hopefully to leave an impression and pick up a few new fans and also make some new friends.
Yeah. And there's a beer. There's a swill.
Oh, yes,
Pirate
that's right,
Swill
Pirate
that's being
Swill.
brewed. Like Bare Bones Records, who have organised the Pirates and Punks Festival, have thought of everything. So there's even a cool beer for the whole tour.
I gotta say that's really cool. It's crazy. Us Canadians, we think about stuff like that. Their own personal craft beer. I honestly, I might buy myself a case of it to actually bring home after the Kingston show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, look, if there's any left, Daniel will probably beat you to it.
Ladies'
I can't do that. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'll probably just be like, give me one beer.
We'll scull it together, mate. Don't worry.
Oh, definitely. Split the cans up and just see who can finish them first. We'll have a little game of Edward 40 hands.
Yeah,
Take them to the hands and see who
The
can
40
finish
ounces.
first.
I want to play that.
Nice.
I actually did that on my 21st birthday. I actually won $50, but I won the bet, I should say, but I didn't get the $50, unfortunately. my buddy thought that he actually, let's just say my buddy thought that he would win already, and then I beat him, and he's like, I don't got the $50, bro. I'm like, whatever. It is what it is.
But you got 80 ounces of beer in your stomach, so
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, I am in no condition to fight you on this. I'm not even gonna remember tomorrow. And it was that old English as well, so it was malt liquor.
Heavy thick stuff.
I was in no condition. But
No,
also,
they said a 3 for that one.
while we're actually on the topic of just up and coming stuff, before we actually went live on this interview, you mentioned to me about how you are currently working on an amazing 5-track EP. I was wondering, obviously you gave me a little bit of information pertaining to this project, but I was wondering if you can tell our viewers a bit more about it, and of course, what can we actually expect from this up and coming project?
Okay, so so this is the new recording with Steve James, and it's a 5-track EP. At the moment, we're looking at a working title of Control Alt Delete, and I suppose that'll resonate with a lot of people around, being sort of connected, what it's like in contemporary society. We've got a couple of two brand new songs. One's called Robot Girl and the other's called Girlzilla, and they're I suppose they're almost like A and B sides of each other, and they're really feminist anthems, and they are very anthemic. Danny came up with the tune for Girlzilla, and I wrote the lyrics. We were away down in New South Wales a few months ago, and I think it was raining and just hanging around the flood all day, so we wrote the song. But they're really, about, on the one hand, what it's like Robot Girl, what it's like to be the expectations of women that society places on them, and almost to the point where, women feel sort of pre-programmed, like with that weight of expectation, and what a drudge that can be. And then the other is the flip side. It's kind of like the FU to the people that would otherwise sort of want to keep you in your place. It's like, no way, buddy. So they're both really great songs. They're brand new, and they're so different from each other too. And then a few other songs. We've got a great song which is kind of got a very strong Ramones feel about it. If you or your the listeners remember Ramones Blitzkrieg Bop, and it's written by Lizzie's brother Marlo, and he very, very kindly offered it to us to record. And it's kind of, again, it's a nephew to everyone that wants to kind of pigeonhole you and assume that you can't do much, or that would, just put you in a box. And it's like, if I'll do things my way. Thank you very much. So they're all good, fast, punchy
different
songs.
Guitar on these songs too.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, working with a producer as opposed to just a recording engineer, is that you're not just getting their technical skills, but you get the benefit of their experience over a long period of time, having worked with lots of artists, and they help to reshape your sound. So you go into the studio with a song sounding like this, put my hands in camera, sounding like this, and then it goes all the way over to here, and so you feel like you've almost got a brand new song. So we're really excited about it. Great songs, and I don't know if there's what else I could add to it, but we're excited to be putting it out.
It'll be released soon,
Can't wait.
Probably around March. They're just doing some tail end backing vocals, and then need to get it mastered, and then we'll go to artwork, and then upload it digitally, and it'll be available for digital distribution on all your favourite platforms.
I think if Autosomal blew your mind, then this one's going to blow it even further.
Yeah.
So
it's an evolution, I think, in what we're doing.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I gotta say, you got me over here definitely excited for this project. And is Steve James actually working with you guys on this project as well, or was that just the previous album?
No, that's this one.
No, that is this one.
Yeah, that is this one.
Yeah.
So Steve is working with us on this one. The previous one, Autosomal, was with a producer in Brisbane named Adam Merker. He's got a studio called Anders De Beers Studio. And he brought, and again, he came at it from the point of a producer, not a technician. So he brought lots of stuff out of us, both musically and vocally. And so we came away with songs that were like, wow, didn't think that song could be any better, but yes, it definitely is. So it's been a real privilege to work with these two guys. And I guess we'll get this one finished and out there, and towards the end of the year, we'll start thinking about something new. And we'll be writing in the meantime. There's always a lot of stuff on the back burner.
We're actually going to do a recording when we're in Canada at Bare Bones. Yeah.
so single.
We're doing a single.
Yeah.
Christmas single?
They're actually they are doing a Christmas single.
Oh no,
That's what it's supposed to be. It's a
not going
Christmas
to be
single.
talky. It's all right. We're
This
getting
is single.
Parasite is the one that we're thinking about. We've got a song called Parasite that we are probably going to record at Bare Bones in Canada. That is so exciting to be thinking that we're going to record in another country.
I gotta say that's definitely phenomenal, and also when you brought up the Christmas single, I'm pretty sure that was a joke, or are you guys actually gonna be recording a Christmas single?
It definitely says something about a Christmas
I
single.
thought it was a joke
Yeah,
until I've just learned it like you'd have.
Yeah, it's on the itinerary.
Yep.
It's about.
Drummer doesn't
8
read itineraries apparently.
It's between 5 and 8 days in. I'm pretty sure.
But
It'll
see,
be
you know what? I
cool.
gotta say though, definitely just take one for the individuals that aren't happy with this. Please just take one for the team. I am absolutely sick of hearing Mariah Carey's "I'll Be Home for Christmas" every single year. I need something fresh from my catalog, and I cannot do another year of Mariah Carey. So KTO, give us something.
Bare Bones, they'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Nate from Master Nate did they did a Christmas song too,
it's
and it was
cool.
a piss take on consumerism. So
That's
yeah,
right.
there's certainly a lot of people out there who find Christmas and the Mariah Carey themed Christmas a bit tedious.
And James Blunt, he just ruined it for everyone too.
During Christmas time, I always take a trip down to the early 2000s. I literally listen to Blink-182's "I Won't Be Home for Christmas" over and over again in a loop.
Yeah.
Get through the season.
Yeah, just get through the season.
I remember Korn even did their own version of Jingle Bells called Jingle Balls.
They did, yeah, that's right.
And it was absolute garbage, really.
But it was Korn. So
Yeah, it was Korn. That's right.
And also, aside from the performance you guys got coming up in literally just a little over a week, of course the international tour, this 5-track EP you guys are currently working on. Well, what is next for KTO, Kathleen Turner Overdrive? Is there anything we missed during this evening or this afternoon's interview? Anything else you still want to talk about? We still got you here live on the radio.
Yeah, I've got something to tell you, something that we're celebrating. There is a community radio here, an independent radio station in Brisbane that Mark and I have listened to since we were young punks. You know, it's a left-wing station and it supports the LGBTQ community and it's very socially minded. They have a Hot 100 that they do for a year. So they did a countdown for 2022 and they have a great big party where it's all released one at a time. And KTO got number 33.
Yeah.
We were
first
so excited.
Mary Winchester.
And it was this is the first year we've actually released our music on Spotify. So we weren't expecting anything. We were really stoked when we got 3 of our songs nominated by the station, and then we actually scored in the top third. So that was really great.
Yeah.
And another thing is we're doing our first sleepover festival this year. There's a festival in the mountains near where we live called Jimna Rocks, and it's a 2-night festival. And we're on the closing night at 7:00. So that is going to be wild. We can't wait for that one.
And I have to say, congratulations as well as actually making that radio station, because obviously it must have been a dream for you individuals. Because as you both mentioned, you have been listening to this station since you were just a young punk. Now you actually have your music not only on their station but also number 33 out of 100. I gotta say that's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, we were proud. I was super proud that my music had been rated by a station that I respected so highly.
And by the viewers as well. Like
That's
that's all
right.
viewer choice.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I don't really blame it for being number 33 because Mary Winchester is such a phenomenal song. We play it here on 99.9, and I actually get requests for it to play it even more. So I'm like, all right, you want more KTO? Just say KTO. You don't need to tell me anymore. You just say KTO. Say those 3 letters. I got you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
But also, as well, before we actually part ways this evening, for the individuals that are watching that do know KTO and of course where to find you guys on social media, how can our viewers and listeners on 99.9 Punk World Radio FM follow you and stay updated on everything KTO, Kathleen Turner Overdrive?
Yeah, so our probably our biggest ones that we are quite interactive with is obviously your Facebook and Instagram. We use them quite a bit, and pretty much every gig, ticket sales, everything we're doing comes up on our Facebook and Instagram. It's KTO.Kathleen Turner Overdrive, because there is a few random Kathleen Turner Overdrives in the world that, you don't need to worry about. But
So yeah, KTO.
Us, not them. This is
yeah.
us, not them.
And Instagram's the same. It's KTO.Kathleen Turner Overdrive. And not just that, you can obviously find us on all streaming platforms and YouTube, etc. So, and go check out our music video, which is on YouTube at the moment, and it's for Unseen.
Yeah, we've got quite a few videos on YouTube. So we'll set up our camera when we're doing a gig and bring it home and edit it and pop it up there so that people can see what we're actually like live.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, thank you so much for just giving myself and my radio station a little bit of your afternoon here this evening. And I gotta say, it's definitely such an honor to be able to talk with all 4 of you individuals. I'm super excited to see all 4 of you in concert this summer. But obviously, we're probably going to talk before then, but definitely safe travels during that phenomenal tour. And thank you so much again for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
Brandon.
you.
Thank you for
Thanks,
your
man.
support too. You're marvelous. You're very encouraging, and the is very warm. And you've obviously done a whole lot of research for today, so we're very grateful. Thank you. And you're interviewing our mates later in the day, the Square Tugs. Go Tugs!
Yes, that I am. Quickly before we go, I was actually super surprised. They actually, I was not even expecting this in the mail. I went and checked the new P.O. box for the radio station, and I had a package. I thought it was a package for my wife or something like that. It was actually a Square Tug CD for Music for Consideration. I looked at that. I'm like, that right there is how you get your music played. I was like, they sent a CD from Australia. I listened to it. Absolutely phenomenal. I literally uploaded 5 of the songs to the station. And
I just dance. When they play, I dance. That's it.
Yeah. I actually played it in my car on the way back home, and I was trying not to stare at my stereo. I was like, Jesus, these guys are great. I had to keep my eyes on the road, but I just kept darting that CD player, being like, what kind of bomb did they just send me?
Yeah. They are great.
Right.
And they got number 1.
They got number 1.
Yeah.
4 Triple Z Hot 100.
That's actually phenomenal, and I will definitely make sure to actually bring that up later on with the interview with them as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Tell them we said hi and we love them.
Oh, well, I definitely will. And you are most certainly welcome, guys. Thank you so much again. And definitely have yourselves a phenomenal afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have a great
Thanks,
evening.
man.
Bye.
Thank you very much.